Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here and welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be creating two cards using the new Snowflake Window Die-namics. This is a beautiful die that cuts out this beautiful snowflake design, and you can either keep the outside edge on it to create a single piece that die cuts completely, or you can just use the inner piece, which will just die cut the snowflake design in the center of your cardstock panel. I'm going to be showing it used both ways in today's video, and first up we're just going to create the snowflake design in the middle of our cardstock panel. So I'm going to take both my panel as well as my card base, which measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and I'm going to die cut it from both of those. So you can see here now I have the design die cut in the center of the panel, and since we didn't have the outside piece on the die, it didn't completely cut out the rectangle, it only cut out that snowflake detail in the center. I'm going to use my paper piercer and just kind of pop all of the pieces out, and then once I have that done, I'll come back here and we can go ahead and start to assemble the card. Okay, so you can see now we have all of the interior pieces popped out, and I have a cardstock panel that's slightly smaller than the front of our card base. And the reason I have this is so that I can line it up on the inside of the card like I'm showing here to hide all of the adhesive that we're going to add a piece of acetate to the back of this window. Adding the acetate is going to allow us to keep this opening on the card front, but it's going to protect all the very delicate pieces of the snowflake from bending when we open and close the card. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take a piece of acetate. You can use anything you have on hand if you have really thick packaging from a product or if you have actual acetate pieces. And I'm just trimming this down so that it's slightly larger than the window opening on our card front. I'm going to add this to the inside of the card, so I'm going to flip my card over here and we're going to put this on the inside. And I'm going to use some score tape and add that all the way around that window. I like to use the score tape here to add the acetate because it's a really strong adhesive and I know that it's going to hold everything in place. And then I also like to take some liquid glue and I'm going to add that to the back of the snowflake area. Liquid glue is easiest just because it's a very intricate piece, so it's really hard to put glue on here. But I do want to have something on here that's going to hold the snowflakes down against the acetate. Just be careful when you're using liquid glue with acetate. It tends to ooze out if you use too much of it, and it will smear on the acetate and kind of wreck the card if you get that all over. So I just do a very light hand, add a few little dabs of glue, and then I'm going to remove the backing sheets from the score tape and add the acetate piece directly on top. I'm going to press down really well to make sure I have everything nicely adhered. And then once I have this in place, I can go ahead and add the backer piece, which is what's going to kind of sandwich the acetate in, and it's going to look nice and neat on the inside of the card as well as the outside. So for this piece, I just repeated the same process. I put the score tape around the outside edges and dabbed on that liquid glue into the center area. I'm going to remove the score tape and I'm going to very carefully line this up over top of the snowflake design that we have in the card. Everything will line up perfectly. It's very symmetrical, so you shouldn't have any problem. You just need to take your time and make sure it's all nice and lined up before you really press it down, because once that score tape sticks, you're going to have a really hard time moving it. And then once I have that all sandwiched together, it's time to kind of assemble the card. It's very quick and easy to assemble. We're keeping this very simple to keep the emphasis on that beautiful window. So what I'm going to do now is just stamp out my sentiment, and this is on one of the banners from the Hearts in a Row vertical Die-namics. I've die cut that from Summer Splash cardstock, and then I stamped the Merriest Wishes onto that with black ink. I'm going to be adding this to the card right in the center, kind of across that big center snowflake, but you can see as you're looking at this that my card is actually smaller than the red piece that we have in behind it, and that's because my actual card is cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and the red panel that we have in behind there is cut to 5.5 by 4 1/4. So the red panel is actually an A2 size, and then the card is cut a little bit smaller so that it fits in the center, and we can see some of that red peeking out from the outside edge. So the actual red piece is just a panel, it's not going to open. Just the white part in the center is what's going to open to reveal the card. To add a little bit of embellishment to this design, I'm taking some silver sparkle enamel dots here, and I'm just adding them to the 2 snowflakes in the center at the top and bottom, and then I'm also adding them to the outside edges of the window there where the snowflakes kind of disappear into the white space. I'm just adding some of those little silver gems there as well. Once I have the little gems added, I put some adhesive onto the back of our card and I'm adhering it onto the red cardstock panel that we've created. And then once I have that on there, I can go ahead and add our little sentiment strip. So now you can see a little bit better how I have the white piece on there and that's what opens, but the red piece is completely flat. Now it is a very big window opening in the front of the card, so you can either write your message kind of around the outside edge, or you can flip it over and write your message on the back of the red panel. For the sentiment strip, I decided to add this on with some foam adhesive, so I did put that on the back of the sentiment strip. And then I have a second one here that I also die cut from the same Summer Splash cardstock, and I'm going to adhere that onto the inside of the card, flat to the card, and that's just going to hide the adhesive on the inside once again so that we have a nice finished look on the inside of the card. And now we have this really beautiful window opening that lets you peek onto the inside of the card. You could add some additional embellishment on the inside of the card. You could add some glitter paper, just different things to kind of dress it up if you want something to actually be showing through the window. So now that I've showed you that way to use the die, I also wanted to show you how to use it if you actually die cut the whole entire thing with the rectangle around the outside edge. So for this one here, I die cut the snowflake design with the rectangle around the outside edge, which gives us a complete panel that kind of stands on its own. So I have 4 separate pieces here, and I'm going to adhere them all together to create kind of like a chipboard design. I want to have it really nice and thick because we're going to add this to the front of our card design. So to adhere them all together, I'm just using that same liquid glue from the first card, and I'm just adding this glue all over the entire back of this panel. Now this has a chisel tip on it, so it allows me to kind of color over the whole background, so it makes it pretty quick and easy to be able to adhere these all together. And once you have the glue on there, you just need to line it up perfectly with the one below it, and you can adhere them together. I'm going to do this with all 4 of these pieces so that I have all 4 of them adhered together. And what we're going to end up with is this beautiful design, but it's going to be really nice and thick, and it's going to have some really great texture on our finished card. So I'm just adding glue to this last one here and adding that on top, and now we have our whole entire piece complete. And I just love the look of this when you kind of look from the side. I love seeing all those layers kind of stacked together. Now this card is going to be kept relatively simple as well. I'm going to use our newest glitter paper. This is the Celebration paper pack, and this one is my favorite. It is full of rainbow colors, which you know I love. So I love that you have all of these options in one pack of glitter. When I pulled it out, I really wasn't sure what color I wanted to use on this design, and you can kind of see that pretty much anything would work. I know it's a snowflake, so you don't typically associate that with like an orange or a yellow, but I feel like this would work on any of the colors just because it's glitter paper, and glitter paper looks great with everything. I did decide to go with this turquoise though, since it is pretty much my favorite color. I love any type of awkward turquoise. I did kind of want to go with this lilac one as well, since the really soft purple looks so nice with that white snowflake design. But I did end up going back to the turquoise, and that's the one we're going to use. So for this here, I'm just going to cut this a little bit smaller than the window so that we can adhere it in behind there. And I'm going to add this on to the background with some score tape. Glitter paper tends to have a bit of a texture to it, so using the score tape is just going to ensure that everything stays together since it's a really nice, strong, sticky adhesive. I am also going to add a little bit of that liquid glue to the center. I wasn't really sure if it would hold to the glitter paper, but I thought it wouldn't hurt to add a little bit there just to try and hold those snowflakes in place. But since they are layered together, it makes the whole piece a lot thicker, so I'm not too worried about those snowflakes moving around. And then once we have that all together, you can see that we have this beautiful snowflake window that has all that great dimension, and then we have that turquoise glitter paper kind of peeking through from the back. I just love how it looks when it's all together. Now to finish this one here, I'm going to take a white panel and I'm going to add it to a red card base. So in the first one, we had the red card base added to a red panel. This one we're doing the other way. We're doing a white panel onto the red card base. And then I'm going to add the sentiment the same as I did on the first one, but for this one I decided to kind of have it go off the side rather than right across the middle of that opening. So I'm lining up the end of the fishtail banner with the shape of the snowflake to kind of make that fit on there, and then I'm going to let it overhang a tiny bit and add a little bit of dimensional adhesive underneath of the end there so that it's all the same level. And then once I have that done, our card is complete and we have this really pretty sparkly glitter paper in behind the window. I did decide to add 2 of the same silver glitter enamel dots to this card as well. I just put it on the top and bottom snowflake there, and then this one is complete. So now we have 2 cards that we created with the same snowflake window die, but we have 2 completely different looks because we changed up the way we used the die. For the first card, we used just the interior piece, which created just the window opening, which allowed us to create that fun acetate window that peeks through the inside of the card. And for the second one here, we used the whole entire piece together with the rectangle outline, which allowed us to cut a separate piece that we could layer together and then create kind of a beautiful accent window on top of the panel. So just 2 great ways to be able to use this new snowflake window die. I hope you got some ideas and are excited to give it a try. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video, and I will see you in another one soon.